My name is Zak Penn, and I'm not looking forward to being alone with Jay Kogan.
Don't be alone with Jay Kogan.
Hey guys, welcome to Don't Be Alone with Jay Kogan. I am so grateful you're here and grateful that you guys like the show. I got a lot of good reaction. We have more viewers and subscribers every day. And if you want to be a subscriber or be part of the thing that we do here at Don't Be Alone with Jay Kogan, I would love it. So please subscribe to the show on whatever thing you're listening or watching right now. Please like it. Please write a happy review, but really also share it. Share the show with somebody who you think might like the episode. That really does a lot. And when you get a message from a friend saying, listen to the show, it's really awesome. I almost always love the show because they've picked it up for me. So word of mouth. That's what I say, word of mouth. And if you have something you want to say to me, good, bad, or indifferent, please write to me at dbawjk@gmail.com. That's dbawjk@gmail.com. I answer the letters, emails, I answer them. You can talk to me anytime by doing that. And I really appreciate it. And I want questions. We always ask a question of our guests, and they will be your questions if you just send them into dbawjk@gmail.com. We have a great show for you today. Something very special. His name is Zak Penn, and he is one of Hollywood's premier screenwriters. He's written television as well as movies, but he's written movies like Ready Player One and The Free Guy and The Avengers and Hulk and Logan. You know, his first movie was The Last Action Hero many years ago. So he has a history of amazing, gigantic Hollywood movies. People turn to him to do rewrites on things like Men in Black and movies that you've loved. You've loved his work, even if you don't know who he is, but you get a chance this time to see who he is. And we get a chance to hear how he assesses show business, which is a treacherous world, can be anyway, a difficult world to sort of figure out how do you have a career that lingers, that you're not here today and gone tomorrow. How do you assess working with some of the biggest names in Hollywood without offending anybody and sort of being on their good side? How do you stay creative but still stay commercial? These are important questions, and I don't know the answers, which is why I'm now a podcaster. But Zak Penn, he knows the answers, and he'll tell you what they are right after this.
Don't be alone with Jay Kogan.
Zak, thank you for being here.
My absolute pleasure.
You may be the most important Hollywood figure ever to grace the microphone of Don't Be Alone with Jay Kogan.
Wow, I'm sorry, Jay. I thought you would do a great job, but I don't know.
No, I don't know. I tried to get Burt Reynolds before he died. Couldn't do it. Right. So now it's just you.
Yeah, that's usually who I follow.
That's the order.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Burt Reynolds and me.
I've known you for many, many, many years.
30
yeah.
odd years.
We don't schmooze much. We sat across from each other at a charity dinner not long ago. Yeah. And every now and then I ran into you at a temple. I think
that's possible.
Your son may have been getting bar mitzvahed at the Wilshire Boulevard Temple.
That did happen. I have two sons who got bar mitzvahed there.
Well, it's one of them.
Yes.
I was there for something.
Right. Right, because you just came to. I know you like bar mitzvahs.
I like the food.
And
I crash.
You just like to see the Haftorah portion.
It moves me.
Yeah.
Anytime I can see a young man struggling with a language he doesn't know.
Becoming a man. By the way, becoming a man literally before your eyes.
Struggling with words and a language he does not understand, and then saying it to a large crowd. I'm there.
Yeah.
I'm there the whole time. But I only say that we don't hang out much because I like you, and I think you're really interesting, and I don't know why I just haven't made the cut. That's really the big thing. Just what is it about me?
In my life?
Yeah.
By the way, I just want to point out, you've emailed me 3 times saying, let's have lunch, and I've said, okay.
Right.
And then you don't propose a date or a time.
Well, the last time I said, let's have lunch or be on my podcast, and you said, let's do both. And so this is part 1.
Right. And there's no food here, so.
No, this is just part 1.
So it's not that you don't make the cut. In fact, I've always found you extremely funny. Yeah. By the way, I think I've told you this before, that my kids know your name as well. I mean, they know your name and Wally and a few others because they just watch the entire run of The Simpsons from start to finish.
And the first 5 seasons are the creme de la creme.
Oh, absolutely. No, I mean, I remember.
That can't be though. But I mean, like the kids who like The Simpsons, these younger kids, have to like the current system. That's like the Star Wars. The greatest Star Wars for any person is whatever one happened when they were 12.
I don't think that that's true, because as someone who started watching The Simpsons the first day it was on,
right.
I mean, I think I was in college when it first went on. But there's absolutely later seasons. I'm sorry to tell you, there's seasons, I don't know if it's in the 10 to 20 range or where it is, where there's brilliant episodes.
Oh, I know.
Throughout.
It's great. It's great. I mean, our friend Matt Selman has been working there for many, many years, and I am a big booster. I watch the show constantly.
Matt, my kids know even better. They know his name even better. So.
As they should.
Yeah.
My son does not know your name. He doesn't know your name. He knows all your movies.
Right.
But he doesn't know your name.
I don't blame him.
So that's.
I'm not 100% certain my kids know my name. So. No, they honestly. I mean, one of the things my wife gets annoyed when I say this, but it's true, that they haven't seen a lot of my movies. My kids. I mean,
really,
they're not like big Hollywood movies. I mean, they like Oscar fare more than they like the kind of stuff that I write. So.
Really? So they're like watching Emilia Perez, and they're just
yeah. I mean, The Imitation Game was their favorite movie one year.
Yeah.
And when Free Guy came, they liked Free Guy and they liked Ready Player One because they got to go to the set.
Right.
So anything where they kind of grew up around it, but their friends used to be big Marvel fans, and they just, I mean, my son Logan, who was named after the character Logan while I was making X-Men 3, has not seen the movie Logan, and I don't think has seen the X-Men movies. And
so are his bones made of adamantium?
Yes, they are.
Okay, well then, well, he should really look into it.
You'd think he'd want to do it.
Sure.
I mean, by the way, two of my kids, my daughter graduated from Wesleyan, and Logan is at Wesleyan now.
This is your alma mater.
It is my alma mater, and I also wrote a movie about it called P.C.U. in 1992. It came out in 94, I think. And they hadn't seen it. I mean, it is hard to see. It is hard. They are living it, and it's also hard to see because it's not available anywhere.
Right.
But I have it. So.
Right. It's available in your house.
In my house.
Anytime they want to see it, they come home and say, "Dad, can I see it?" They'll just
and I do a live reenactment of it most,
well, that's
most
why.
days. Most
Honestly,
days.
Zach, that's why they don't want to see it.
Yeah, it is true. I know. I have to stop that.
So I listened to you on a podcast. It may have been Script Notes. I'm trying to remember. You were on a podcast talking about your adventure with The Last Action Hero.
Oh, that was on The Ankler.
Oh, The Ankler.
Richard Rushfield.
Correct. So you, I didn't know this until I heard this. You have a really crisp and clear memory of your experience getting to Hollywood.
Yes.
And my guess is you have a pretty strong memory of all of your career as we've been detailing it.
It's funny you should say that. I mean, there's lots of movies I forget that I worked on.
Right.
One of the ones I always forget is The Forgotten, which is entirely appropriate. It's about a woman who wakes up and her son is gone, and everyone says you never had a son.
Oh.
But anyway.
Talk about your gaslighting.
Yeah. And I've gaslit myself on that one. But no, it's working on movies is an incredible experience, and it's a privilege. Even when it sucks, it's a privilege.
Right.
I mean, as you heard from that podcast, even talking about Last Action Hero, which theoretically should have been the worst experience I ever had, it was filled with I guess I was able to just enjoy the absurdity of the whole thing.
So you just come to town, kind of, you write this screenplay, and there's like it's the time of spec screenplays going haywire, right? And then you wind up submitting this to an agent.
Yeah, that's how we got an agent, we used Last Action Hero as a way to get an agent, and we kind of agented the agents, as we talked about in that.
Right, trying to figure out like multiple agents to try and sort of pick the one.
Can I ask, are you getting at the question of how did I know what I was doing when I first got out here?
No, because I don't think that you did know what you were doing.
I did.
You did know what you were doing.
So
because I think now you really know what you're doing.
Now I really know.
But I would imagine at the time, well, here's this show is all about people solving my problem.
Right.
This is what it is about.
Yes.
And you're here to solve my problem, which is I think that you are savvy about show business. You might not be savvy about anything else, but I think you're savvy about show business. And when I heard the machinations of The Last Action Hero, which I thought was maybe seemed to be your first experience, show busy experience.
Yeah.
You seem to play that out really, really well.
Well,
in every capacity, even when you were getting fucked over, you still played it out really well.
That's interesting. I mean, let me just say this. I started writing when I was, I wrote my class play when I was like 10 and 11 years old, which was insane. They were terrible.
Right. Me too.
Plays.
I wrote one with Billy Ray. Billy Ray and I were classmates.
Really?
And we wrote a Welcome Back Zeus play.
I wrote a parody of the Academy Awards one year, and then I wrote a thriller that was 10 minutes long with like 80 scene changes. Fantastic. But and I was acting and writing, and I wrote, a play when I was in high school that got performed, and so I also weirdly decided in my junior year of college, instead of going abroad, that I would go to Los Angeles, because I'd only been there a couple of times, and I got a sense that it was a tough city to get used to. I'm a New Yorker, and that's what I'm used to.
That's an easy city to get used to. Yeah, for New York.
Right. Well, if you grow up there, certainly.
Right.
But also, like, there's no mystery as to where everything is.
Right.
I mean, the first time I came to LA, I drove around looking for Los Angeles, trying to figure out where exactly it was.
That's a mistake. There is no, for those of you who don't live in Los Angeles, there is no such thing as Los Angeles. Los Angeles is a figment of people's imagination. There are pockets of places where you can find interesting things, but the city as a whole is a giant mess of nothing.
Yeah, exactly. So I decided to come out here, and I got the lay of the land for myself, and it was tough. That was like the first month I spent alone in Los Angeles, living in a terrible apartment, was pretty tough. But my point is simply that I was already thinking, I know I want to go to Hollywood. I know I want to be a screenwriter and a director and an actor. And so I better figure things out. And then when I first got out here, we became script readers. We did, we asked a lot of questions. Anyone who would meet with us, we would meet with them. So that gave me a leg up a little bit over my contemporaries, which I think explain why we sold a project when we were 22 or 23 rather than when we were 28 or 29. First of all, the disaster that was Last Action Hero was a great learning experience. And I would say that it gave me tremendous humility. I mean, it was impossible not to. I mean, people were literally shitting on us from start to finish.
Right.
And also, I got a glimpse into the way Hollywood worked, and I got to see some really weird, crazy shit.
So, you sold this screenplay like you agented the agents. You did multiple visits with different agents and found the hottest one that you liked. Then they submitted this script to multiple studios, and you thought there was going to be like a war for the script.
Right. And there was briefly.
But the best war was happening with its own movie company.
Yeah.
Like Columbia was fighting with Sony.
Columbia bidding against TriStar.
TriStar, right.
Yeah, right. But look, in the end, we did well from that.
You did fantastic.
And I will say that, the second, I already had plans for what was next. We had the idea for P.C.U. I had a lot of ideas. I still do. I mean, the one thing I can never really explain is the ability to come up with ideas. Right. They just come to me, and I'm sure some of that's true for you.
All the time. Right. The ideas are the easy part.
Right.
The execution's the hard part.
Execution is hard.
Yeah.
But so I think that...
Do people come to you and say, I have these great ideas. I'll give them to you. You can write them. And then that'll be great for us. And I keep telling them, I don't want your ideas.
Yes, that happens to me all the time, and I never want their ideas. Right. And, the execution, as you said, that's like the difficult part. I could come up, if someone said, make up 10 movies, because we need to, we're starting a studio and we need 10 movies to make, give me a weekend and I could come up with 10 decent movies. And that's something I was pretty confident of.
And you still have the Forgotten in your back pocket.
I've got that, if I ever remember it. So I think that early experience and the kind of weird high-low exposure we got, like exposure to we were friends with so many assistants and we knew how the bottom of the food chain worked, but then we got these weird glimpses into how the top of the food chain worked. And it made me realize that I could not let the disappointments that I was facing or the insults, I had to let that make me angry rather than depressed.
Right. Well, that is a superpower.
That was the one I will admit to having when I was younger.
That is so important, to have the thick skin to sort of be able to take the punch in the gut, and then whatever that is, and be able to put it away. I mean, get angry about it or use that energy and then move on to the next thing.
Well, I always felt like I need to prove to the people who just did this that I'm actually much better than they think, and I'm better than them. And the only way I can do that is by writing something better.
Has Shane Black ever apologized to you?
Totally. Shane, first of all, Shane and I have no ill will towards Shane. I think Shane's, first of all, I think he's a brilliant writer.
Me too.
And we were parroting his writing when we wrote Last Action Hero.
Of course. But in a meeting you described, he was sort of basically putting you out to pasture.
Well, here's the thing. In that meeting, it was more me pointing, like saying to him, look, your whole analysis of comedy is wrong. I'm sorry to tell you, even though you're very successful writing funny stuff, your analysis is wrong. But I was angry at Shane for a while. And then once I got into a position like Shane, where I was rewriting other people, I started to realize, oh, this is much... I now understand what he was going through. He had been fired too. And I didn't realize that. I mean, there's people I've worked with who have no excuse. And, you know, I won't name names, but like Joss Whedon, for example, is someone who he had no excuse for his behavior, which, you know, we shouldn't go into, but like he was in charge, you know? Shane wasn't really in charge, so it was hard for me
he was
to
doing
stay.
someone's bidding, though. It seemed like he was coming in doing someone's bidding to take over the rewrite of The Last Action Hero.
Yeah, but...
Which is what's going to happen. Like, that was going to happen probably no matter what.
Right.
So you can't blame that one guy, but it was kind of like...
We also weren't upset at the prospect of collaborating with Shane, but like, I now know... I mean, you know what it's like. If someone says to you, hey, let's write this script together... You're like, I have no idea how you work. I don't know if I can bear being in a room with you.
Exactly.
Do you... I like to have the whole thing outlined. You don't, you know, whatever. It's funny, you know, after my first writing partner and I split up, which was very quickly after, you know, we wrote 2 movies, we wrote Last Action Hero and P.C.U. and then split up our partnership for reasons known mostly to him. I don't know. I know,
but I'm not allowed to say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Let me just say it's your fault.
Of course it's my fault because he was the one who wanted out. But, but, you know, I ended up writing with Mike White, who's probably I knew him from college and knew he was a great writer. Right. And you couldn't find 2 more different people, particularly at the time. And it was difficult for both of us to write with each other, but he was so good at writing that it didn't make a difference. Like he would just write, you know, the entire first act in a day, and it was brilliant. And so that's a very easy writing partnership to, you know, you'd sit there and say, how are we going to work this out? You don't seem to want to talk and I need to talk it out and whatever, but it's all trumped by you just being an excellent writer who's just wailing on the script without my having to lift a finger. So,
but it also takes the other writer, it takes the other person, the wherewithal to recognize good writing, not to let their own ego get in the way, saying, hey, this guy did it without me. That again is a maturity level that not everybody has.
Okay. I'll accept that too. You know, one thing is I've never been afraid to share credit with other people. And the irony of us losing credit on our first movie was that I always feel like it's the reason why I like having a writing partner. And I unfortunately have not really been able to keep a writing partnership because the business doesn't want me to. You know, every time I suggest, hey, why don't I write the script with Jay Kogan? They say, no, we're paying for you to write it, not for Jay Kogan to write it, you know? So
I've heard the exact same thing. That not Jay Kogan, we're paying you to write it. I've heard it.
And then that's confusing
for
you.
It does. It hurts me a little bit.
You know, to me, I'm a team sport kind of guy, you know, like I play basketball still every weekend, and I like winning with other people. Like there's no better feeling. Like it's actually the feeling of when you do something alone and then get all this attention and adulation for it is uncomfortable. I mean, it's for some people, if you're a narcissist, I guess it's awesome. But for most people, there's this bit of discomfort, like, what am I supposed to say? What am I supposed to do? Like, I'm excited that you like it, but I'm not going to sit here and be my own cheerleader.
Also, nothing you and I ever do is really alone. There's if a movie is made, you can write a script alone. But if a movie is made by many, 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 many people.
Unquestionably.
Scripts are changed with notes from different people. There's lots of things go into the pot.
Right. But even being in a meeting, right? Yeah. Even like you hand in a draft and people like it is so much more satisfying when there's someone sitting next to you who you can say, holy shit, we did it.
Right.
You know, like, isn't this exciting? You can't say that to yourself.
Right. The next time you have one of those meetings, just invite me.
I will.
I'll sit right next to you and just go like, yeah, we did it.
I will.
Yeah, happily. I play along. I'm good with improv. Yes and like nobody's business.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And by the way, that's another thing is I've made a bunch of improvisational movies where the whole point of it was I want this to be the actors who can take credit for their own dialogue because I'm just feeding them the, situations.
Yeah.
But so I would say if we're looking at, Jay, if we're trying to analyze what did I do right that's an instructive thing for you or anyone else.
All of us, yes.
Although it doesn't strike me, this is one of your problems, is one, as we just said, having the attitude of other people succeeding with me is good or better than me succeeding alone. And then the other thing is that obviously, the first point that I was making about letting the things that are disastrous for you fuel a need to prove yourself, which, by the way, I have mostly lost at this point. I mean, it's very hard for me to sit around complaining, like, why don't people recognize what I can do? I do it sometimes anyway. I mean,
well, I know a lot of people who are judging you and saying you're not good enough. So, really? Well, I mean, there's a large group. I don't know if you're on this thread.
No, I'm not on that one. I think they booted me off that, and I guess that's why.
Yeah, but I will say this that it seems like in your handling of the industry in general, you've had a very successful career, and you're still to this day, you're known to give a good meeting. You're known to sort of, handle stars pretty well, deal with directors pretty well. You've dealt with some of the biggest directors of all time. Mm-hmm. And not to say that Steven Spielberg's tough to deal with. He's probably not. But it's just like, that's intimidating and interesting. And like you seem to have been built for this job, or at least trained yourself to be good for this job. I was born in Los Angeles to a writer, and I'm not nearly as good at my job as you are.
First of all, I accept that compliment.
Okay,
thank you. There's no question that I trained well for what I'm doing, because I also like to act, and being a good actor is a good part of is a big part of it.
Do you think your dad being a business guy helps you look at the business as a business?
Yeah, I certainly think I inherited from my family a pretty, unromantic view of things. Like I was thinking about this after I got your email. One of the things that I did early in my career was tried to be very careful about balancing the monetary rewards of the job with the artistic rewards of the job. And part of it was kind of being honest with myself, saying, I don't want to be poor. Like, I would like to make money doing this. Mm-hmm. And the more money I make doing this, the more freedom I'll have to do exactly what I want, which is something I really followed through on in the early 2000s, where I went off and made these really unusual low budget movies that were improvised and designed not to make any money. And I funded all those by writing big Marvel movies, So I think early on, I developed this kind of hybrid sensibility of, I'm going to make sure that I sell a big script or that I get a big job, and I'm going to keep my status in the industry. Like, one of the things I did, not that this is an advice podcast, but like early on in my career, I had a lot of friends who they'd sell a pitch or they'd sell a screenplay and then try to boost their screenplay price as much as they possibly could. So they would go from getting paid $200,000 for a script to trying to get paid $600,000 for a script. And my attitude was, I never want to price myself out. I always want people to feel like this person isn't overpaid, which I now am. Like, there's no question. I've passed the point. But for years, I would only take like a 10% raise. I wouldn't jam studios. You know, I wrote like 7 consecutive movies for Fox at one point from 98 to 2007 or something. And each time I just said, you know, let's just go up incrementally, because I don't want to be competing with people who've won Oscars. I don't want to be competing with, you know, David Koepp. Like I want people to think, well, he's cheaper than David Koepp. Because, and I think that's just because I think I'm just being honest with myself, and I have a certain amount of humility.
I think David Koepp, when he was born, was already making like $500,000.
He sold a spec, I believe, when he was prenatally, which was shocking.
But it was good. The guy's good. I get that. I would say that I don't want to price myself out either, but the other temptation is knowing that there's an ebb and flow, and at some point the spigot will be turned off, so you're going to have to get A, money, and B, the opportunity to work when you can.
Well, that's why the one thing you have to be really smart about, which I guess I did, which would explain why you perceive me this way, is that I never lost sight of, I've got to make sure, is this job going to push me forward? You know, one of the things I say to writers all the time is, if you're sitting there thinking, I want to write this because I want to make this movie, you're in the wrong mindset, because your script is not the movie. It's not even the blueprint for the movie. It's an advertisement for what potentially the script could be that would then become the blueprint for a movie. And so if you do a good job of writing that advertisement to the point that people say, hey, wow, this script is really improved and we want to make it now, that's a home run. Like you have to look at that. You can't look at that as, well, it doesn't mean anything till it gets made as a screenwriter, or you will drown in your own sorrows. So I think that was something that was very important to me, is, does this job push me forward in some way? Is this, I always turn down jobs where I felt like, I get that you're offering me a lot of money. It seems like an exciting project, but I don't know how to make this better. You know, one that my friends know me for is Galaxy Quest, was a script that I was sent and asked to rewrite. And I said, I don't know how to improve this. I was like, I don't have any notes. So I don't want to take the job because I don't want to be the guy who made it worse.
I did that once on a Coen Brothers script.
Did you?
Yes, Intolerable Cruelty. Somebody gave me this Intolerable Cruelty. It was Ron Howard, and said, "Yeah, we want the Frasier sheen, like some kind of Frasier, as if I'm Mr. Frasier, to go over some of the scenes." And every time I looked at it, I said, like, if I touch any of it and put what you're talking about, I'm going to ruin the tone of the storybook fairy tale tone of what I think everybody likes about this script.
Yeah. Also, I mean, to me, rewriting the Coen Brothers would be like the most intimidating possible.
It was.
I think that might be number one.
Yeah. What's the project that you think you handled the best?
Yeah, I certainly handled Ready Player One well.
Yeah.
In that I think it was a very tough adaptation. I had turned it down a couple of times, and I agreed to do it. You know, the circumstances where I agreed to rewrite it were unusual, where I agreed to do it for much lower than my quote, because the studio actually owed me money from a project where they had wanted to settle me out as which what happens sometimes on movies is, if they want to get rid of you, they pay you half of the money they owe you and you go away and you don't have to do the work. And that had never happened to me before, and I refused. I was like, don't pay me anything, but let's just agree you owe me that money and we find something. So that's number one. Those are the circumstances where I took the rewrite. And then the rewrite, I guess, was good enough that the studio immediately sent it to Steven Spielberg. I literally woke up every day and said, okay, I'm working for Steven Spielberg today and we're making a movie. It doesn't get better than this. And when we were on set, you know, me and Ben Mendelsohn, some of the actors would just, you know, Ben and I were, I think, literally like exactly the same. We're like a month apart in age and everything. we would just say, can you believe this, that this is what we're doing? This is what we wanted to do our whole lives. So I think on Ready Player One, I didn't get too excited. I didn't like pester him constantly with notes or questions. I just tried to be the best writer. You know, I just tried to fit into his machine, which is this brilliant, beautiful thing where every single person is the best at what they do.
Right. Did notes come from him or his people
all from him?
All from him.
All from him. And if other people gave notes that he liked, which he does. By the way, Spielberg is really good about taking advice from other people, which is crazy.
Yeah.
You know, he'll say to someone, "Oh, what'd you think of this?" And you want to say, "They're wrong. You're Steven Spielberg.
Right.
Whatever it is that you wanted to do is what you should do." But that's how he gets to be Steven Spielberg.
Of course. What's the worst that either worst thing that you handled or the worst way that you've been screwed by the business?
Well, I would say, you know, I certainly didn't handle, you know, on the last TV project I did, Beacon 23, which I literally I don't even talk about it. I never even watched it. I mean, I made it.
You're showrunner, executive producer of it?
Yeah.
And you did not watch it?
I did not watch it.
That's a bad sign. I got to say right now. Bad sign.
And I won't go into the details why, but basically there were politics going on behind the scenes that I was not, I feel like it wasn't that I was completely ignorant of them, but for some reason I didn't believe that. I just thought people are going to act sensibly.
Right.
And I'm sitting here trying to finish this show and they're going to let me do that because it's the most cost efficient possible way to do it. And because I created the show and I never expected that I could actually get forced out for reasons that nobody could explain to me, you know? That was really painful. That was like the worst.
That's the most painful thing that ever happened to me. Was when you were forced out of that show. I took it personally.
You know, that's what I love about you, Jay. I mean, I
love you and I love your work, and how dare they?
Yeah. And I love that you never told me that before now, you saved it up.
I saved it for this moment.
Didn't send me a note when it happened.
No.
Didn't watch the show.
Didn't watch the show.
Don't even
out
know
of
what
protest.
It is. Yeah.
Out of protest because you were not.
Yeah, because of what happened.
No, it happened to me. I was forced off of a show too. I didn't. It was just like out of phone calls. Like, you're done. It's like, why? We can't tell you.
Yeah. I didn't even get a phone call.
What?
I just was like, suddenly found out that they were doing something else.
Right.
And it wasn't, by the way, part of the problem was that the network spectrum kind of folded while we were making the show. So like the whole power dynamic, I never really knew who was in charge after that.
Sure.
So
that hurts.
Yeah, that one was painful. And I've had a couple of other ones that, I mean, obviously like the last Action Hero thing, what I didn't handle well was I was pretty pissed off when we got fired, and I would call people and tell them, speak my mind. And maybe, I don't know, maybe it was a good thing, but I certainly didn't handle it like, oh, well, that's just the way Hollywood works. I had no idea.
That was your first thing. But you were in the movie. You wound up being in the movie.
I know.
Like, as bitter and as angry as you might have been, you were like in a scene.
Well, no, I'm not, because the director was such an asshole.
He cut you out.
That he didn't cut me out. He put me out of frame.
Right.
So that, I mean, I think I told that story that I was out of frame the whole time. But look, certainly Avengers, that was a tough one for me because that was something I worked on for 5 years, and I kind of collaborated on all the movies leading up to Avengers, and was like, went over with Marvel when they first started, and then just to have somebody come in and basically try to actively erase your involvement, that was very difficult for me, and I couldn't figure out why it was happening. Like to
this day?
No, now I know.
Okay.
I mean, here's what I was trying to figure out. Why is this guy who actually went to college with me? Right. We both went to Wesleyan. I wasn't friends with him there, but still, and I had known him since I first got to Hollywood. Why is this guy so vehement about getting rid of any of my involvement on this project? And why is he so ungenerous about everything? And I'm sure he'd say it's because he thought my script sucked. That's what he said publicly, is like his script sucked, which is a crazy thing to say.
About a collaboration.
Right. Yeah. And by the way, not to go off on this, but Avengers was really, like, I wrote the Hulk too, and Avengers was like the finale of a show, right? And the script that I wrote was not so vastly different from what Joss wrote.
Of course.
Joss made a bunch of different choices, but what I couldn't figure out is why. Like, why is he being such a dick? And I assume Marvel was angry at me for something. And then I found out years later, he's a sociopath. Right? Which you don't see coming, that like he's a person who kind of gets off on making other people feel bad. And that was something I'm not going to say I'm ashamed,
but you can't see it coming.
Right. But it really surprised me. And I'm pretty good. I think if you asked any of my friends, who's a person who can spot someone who's a bad person?
Right.
It's me. I'm the guy who your friend shows up with a boyfriend and everyone's like, oh my God, he's the nicest guy in the world. I'm like, that guy has bodies buried. I'm telling you, there's something off. He's way too nice. And I've been right about that a bunch of times, so I still feel like if I had understood what I was getting into, I maybe could have handled that.
You doing something with The Rock?
I'm writing a movie that will star The Rock.
Excuse me, we call him Dwayne Johnson.
Yes. By the way, we do call him Dwayne Johnson or DJ.
Right.
And I've worked with him once before, but I mean...
But I still smell what he's cooking.
Yeah. I can't, actually.
I smell what he's cooking.
Mostly Zooms, but even when we... I will say this, it's kind of the guy smells terrific.
Yeah.
I had dinner with him not that long ago, and I just have a very acute sense of smell. It's kind of a curse, by the way. There's nothing good about it, except if you have dinner with The Rock. And I'm just like, this guy smells like a coconut forest. Right.
So like, I'm guessing that whatever he was wearing cost $1 million. Like
no,
I said.
It's funny you should mention that because he was wearing a Todd Snyder polo shirt.
Okay.
Which I know because I have some, and they don't cost $1 million.
No, the fragrance, I'm saying.
Oh, the fragrance, yes, was, I believe, harvested from 10,000 children.
Right, exactly.
No, it was very expensive. I think it cost over $50 million just to get all
worth
those
it,
kids.
less how he smells.
I mean, they had to grow the kids.
Sure, in the kid farm.
No, but so I am doing a project with DJ and JJ, and it's an original idea of mine that I sold as a pitch, and that's something I'm working on right now.
Fantastic.
Actually.
Do you see, since you work with so many great important directors, JJ and Speilberg and the like, a connective tissue with what makes really good directors really good?
I have to give credit to Toby Emmerich, who was the first person to say this to me. He said it about Peter Jackson, which was never underestimate stamina. In the same way that, like, when you look at someone's career, you can say, with my career, never underestimate attrition, the war of attrition. Just surviving makes you a winner, you know? And what is true of Spielberg, and JJ and I have yet to be on set together, but I know him enough that I can see it in him, is the sheer stamina, the sheer ability that Steven has to direct for 12 hours and like not be in a bad mood, not be grumpy and not be trying to get out of there, and then to give notes on other things and read and watch other things at night, and come back the next morning with notes on the scenes that you're not expecting because you think, wasn't he just sleeping? That's what I was doing. I think the best directors I've worked with, most of them have just, an astonishing amount of energy that I cannot match. I mean, that's something that I realized, like, I have to be more careful about directing. There's a reason I'm very, I don't do it that frequently, because it's all about stamina.
So now it's time for question time.
It's question time.
What's the best movie you wrote that never got made?
Maybe it's my Jason the Argonaut script.
Okay.
It could be I wrote a solo movie for Magneto that, for Michael Fassbender's version
but
of it.
But it was a rom-com.
It was a rom-com, and it was an art film, and it was 11 hours long. No, that was a good script. I wrote a Matrix prequel.
Oh, wow.
I'm very proud of. That just didn't get made. So.
It may still. You never know.
It might, and it might not.
All right. Is it about Neo?
No, it's
Okay,
not.
all right. It's about the Lawrence Fishburne character, where he comes from?
Nope.
Ah, God damn it. All right.
Do you want me to tell you? I
No,
will. Okay.
no, I don't want to ruin it.
All right.
Okay, yeah. Who is it?
You know how they describe how the first Matrix was a paradise and people couldn't deal with it?
Yes.
This is the story I wrote was about the paradise Matrix and the first people ever to get pulled out of the Matrix. So there's hints of Neo and Morpheus and of the other mythology, but it's really about a bunch of new characters.
Okay, that could be good. They can still do that.
They could still do that, but I don't think they will.
All right. What is the worst movie that did get made?
The worst movie they did get made?
Yes.
Well, let me think. I mean, ELEKTRA came out really poorly,
Right.
but I feel like it could have been a good movie if it had been R-rated, which was the original idea. And when it went to PG-13, a movie about an assassin
Right.
loses a lot. So that was one. I mean, Inspector Tragic, as I called it, Inspector Gadget, something I
Right.
have credit on.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, I didn't like it, but over the years, I've been convinced by other people that it's not that bad a movie.
Yeah, that
Kids
happens a
love
lot.
it.
Yeah,
Kids
when
love it.
people come up to you and say, "This is my favorite movie."
I mean, Last Action Hero, I think, is an extremely flawed movie.
Right.
I mean, it's weird and different, and it gets some credit for that.
Right.
And there's a couple of really good moments.
Right.
But it is a disjointed movie.
It's not what you intended it to be.
Right.
Yeah, I understand that.
So, but I've done some rewrites on movies I'm not going to name, you know, where I've come in for a couple of weeks
Right.
and something that I later thought was just absolute trash.
Yeah.
So,
But that's not your fault. You do your best.
No.
You give them your best and you walk away.
yeah.
Yeah, that's I've been lucky enough.
But I
occasionally.
think with ELEKTRA, the original writer's script, given what the stipulations were from the studio, they would have been better off with the original writer's script than the one that I tried to write a Luc Besson movie.
Right.
And a toothless Luc Besson movie is far worse
Right.
than what they had written.
Why do you think they
Stu
wanted?
Zuckerman and Raven Metzner, shout out to them on that.
Right. Why do you think they wanted the other version?
Well, I think there were probably some problems with their script.
Yeah.
And I just came in with this very forceful pitch of
Right.
like, I really wanted to do it. I love the character from
Right.
the comic books. But I think, the problem was sometimes when you convince people of something, if you don't really have the power to say, but it also has to be made this way,
Right.
it doesn't really, you end up with the worst of both worlds.
All right, let's do listener mail.
Now it's time for listener mail.
Dear Jane, this is not intended for you.
I know.
What's the biggest mistake that you're willing to talk about that you've made, and how did you overcome it? This is from Katrina. Thank you, Katrina, for the listener mail.
Well, I think I did talk about some of the mistakes I've made in my career, and I overcame them. Mostly by forgetting them.
Right. Moving past them.
Yeah. I mean,
Have you burned a bridge? Have you made an enemy, like an enemy that you wish you hadn't made?
I mean, I can't imagine Joss Whedon is a big fan of mine.
Yeah, but I don't think you regret that parting of the ways.
There's a couple of people who I actually really like and who don't seem to like me for whatever reason, and I can't quite figure out why. And I will say this, earlier, here's something that's maybe more relevant. Earlier in my career, I had a tendency, because this is what I was asked to do and I thought it's what they wanted from me, to come in and be very forceful and pontificate about here's what this needs to be. And what I didn't really think about at the time is that even when I did that and it worked, and there was a couple of movies where it's like, I said, this is what it's got to be, and we need to change it so it's like this, and that'll get the movie made. And then it did get made. And so I just thought, they all love me. Everyone who's in that meeting must love me, because look at me, I hit a home run.
Right.
And what I didn't really think about is, well, no, the two people who had been saying that the whole time and their boss didn't listen to them are not happy with me at all. In fact, they're annoyed with me. And this person whose notes I said, forget your notes, are not going to work. I mean, I probably wasn't that much of a dick about it, but like the kind of I didn't really think through all the politics. I know it seems like I'm really savvy about it.
That's why you're here. You're here because you're Mr. Politics.
Yeah, but I'm not. I mean,
Right.
I wasn't, certainly.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm much more politic now.
Right.
And my wife became a studio executive and was one for many years. So that helped me understand the other side of it. But
Yeah. Executives often, many of them were going to be writers or may be writers. You know, I take their notes very seriously.
yeah.
I don't automatically dismiss somebody just because they're an executive.
I certainly, now I have a pretty strict policy, which is when someone gives me notes, as much as I can within my power, my attitude is, great, I'm going to take all these, I'm going to go home and think about them.
Right.
I'm not even going to respond right now. In fact, I'm always encouraging people, like, let's not have a notes meeting. Just tell me what your notes are.
Right.
Let me think about it. And then let's have a meeting where I come in and say, because if the answer is, I can do all these notes, then we don't need to have a meeting.
Right. Zak Penn, thank you for being here, man.
Jay, my
you're
pleasure.
You're awesome. And
thanks.
you've been awesome for my whole life, but you continue to be awesome, and that's great.
Well, not your entire life, because you are slightly older than me, right?
Yeah. So my conscious life.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Fair enough.
Something been awesome, my conscious life, and I really appreciate you. I appreciate your wisdom of life and the industry, and also just your talent. I really enjoy your movies.
Oh, well, thank you so much. And this was a pleasure. I have to say, this was like one of the more fun podcasts I've ever done. I mean, in terms of just being
that's what we guarantee. That's our guarantee.
Good time. Yeah.
This podcast is a good time.
It's a good time.
Yeah. You'll look horrible at the end of this. You'll hate it because you'll look horrible. But
also, I thought I was getting paid. I just learned that I'm not getting paid.
No, you're not getting paid at all.
Yeah, I thought I was going to be paid a lot of money.
I may at some point manufacture coffee mugs, and if I do that, coffee mug is coming your way, my brother.
Well, now this just got twice as good.
Yeah, exactly. So don't be alone with Jay Kogan Coffee. I'll show you the designs. They're fantastic.
I can't wait to see them.
And thank you for being with us, the home audience. Really appreciate your attending this. I really have a good time talking to people. I think you should have a good time talking to people in person. Get out of your house or bring somebody to your house and have conversations with people. That's the whole point of all of this. That's why don't be alone with Jay Kogan.
Is your audience mostly shut-ins?
Incels and shut-ins.
Incels
and
shut-ins.
When they get together, it's ugly.
Yeah.
It's ugly.
Okay.
But please write to me at dbawjk@gmail.com for any question or comment or issue. Please subscribe. Please like the show. Do all that other bullshit. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Don't be alone.